Humans are very crude. We basically wander around with cheap energy and heavy objects and smash things. And essentially the byword is if brute force isn't working, you're not using enough of it. How do we make concrete? We burn rocks. This is how Romans did it. For 5,000 years, we've been burning rocks. Do you think that's the best thing we can come up with? I don't know that we'll ever see the end of the age of oil, but I do know that the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones.
When people think about decarbonizing the economy, the things that reflexively come to mind are automobiles and cows and plastic straws. And there's something very visceral about understanding how certain components of our economy are very contributive on a CO2 basis to climate change. But real estate is for some reason not that intuitive to people. It's almost like the culprit that's been hiding in plain sight. As an architect, someone very focused on design, what do you think that is that doesn't make people intuitively grasp that right away?
We've gotten to the point where 40% of the energy use and climate-related emissions are coming from the building sector. That's made up of a lot of things. Concrete, steel, these are all the things that go into our buildings. So looking at the building industry per se, our tendency is to want to see them as shelter and be comfortable. So we don't see them as active polluters, and they shouldn't have to be. We've reached a point in history right now where if you weigh everything made by humans, it exceeds the dry mass weight of all living things.
The man-made world is heavier,
than
the
natural world now. Yeah.
What does that mean for you, ethically, about where we sit in the arc of civilization?
Well, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could design buildings like trees? We have buildings that sequester carbon, fix nitrogen, distill water, provide bird habitats. So think like a tree. Think of how many things you can do, not how many things you don't do. Take anything that doesn't need to be gray and make it green. Take anything that doesn't need to be hard and make it soft. Even decarbonizing, I find, is a strange term when you think about it. Because we are carbon. If you want to decarbonize yourself, you just wait here, and long enough, you'll dry up and blow away, and we'll say you decarbonized yourself. But that's not what we're here for. Carbon is life. The world's largest green roof saved $35 million in capex. So if you're sitting doing real estate, okay, I have a factory, it's 10 acres. I have the Clean Water Act requiring me to put in $48 million worth of chemical treatment plants and pipes. And I can make this building have a green roof and orchards and duck ponds and all kinds of other fun stuff. That all cost us $13 million. So we saved Ford $35 million in capex.
There's this perception that there's this disjunction between what is the right thing to do for the world, what is altruistic, ethically, what should we be doing?
Right.
And what's the right thing to do for the bottom line, for your wallet, for the economy.
Yeah.
And in reality, there is no daylight between those two things if you look at it the right way.
In fact, people look at things like a regulation as a cost. You should immediately think of it as an opportunity. In one project in Washington, we used triple glazing, even though double glazing is perfect. We went triple glazing. Why? Because the carbon footprint was dramatically reduced, but the main reason that people who are in the building love it is they can't hear the helicopters flying next to their window while they're trying to talk on the phone. Can you imagine? You're in a silent building and you're warm. What's that worth?
What is the technology or the solution that you are most excited about its long-term potential to reduce the carbon intensity of real estate?
The one I'm really excited about is graphene. It's incredibly thin, one layer of carbon in the hexagonal grid, strong enough to stop a knife. I wanted my concrete, I wanted my paint, I wanted everything. It's amazingly light, amazingly strong, not toxic, incredible. Guess what? It's pure carbon. So the use of carbon as a material, not just as fuel, is what's coming. That's fantastic. So I see a carbon world coming, sophisticated carbon world. And it's much more like nature. The new concrete we just invented, we're working with amazing chemists and so on, and we've come up, we just filed the patents, a concrete that can capture carbon from the atmosphere directly, quietly, not all this big equipment and noise, but we found a way to basically take it right out of the air.
What inspires you the most?
So when I think about the people who are trying to do this work for the next generations, it isn't sustainability like maintenance or something. This is intergenerational stewardship. That's what it is. So that's what excites me about these big projects, is when they're based on the idea of leaving something valuable to the next generation, then it's very moving. It's not just how much can I get for how little I give. The question of modern commerce. It's how much can we give for all that we get.
To create something that inspiring, obviously you need capital, you need vision, and it sounds like from your perspective you need a kind of multi-generational, mankind aperture level vision. How do you create that? How do you create the incentives for developers, whether they're public or private, to adopt that vision?
It's quite simple, really. Let them make a lot of money. Watch them move.